You've been eating less for months. The scale says you lost 15 pounds. Your friends say you look great. But when you look in the mirror, that belly is still there, sitting, mocking you. Here's the devastating truth nobody warned you about. You've been losing the wrong fat this entire time. The safe fat. While the dangerous fat, the fat literally choking your organs, hasn't budged an inch. In the next 7 minutes, I'm revealing which method actually forces your body to burn visceral fat first. Let's get one thing straight before we go any further. This isn't about looking good at the beach. This is about the fat you cannot see. Visceral fat wraps around your liver, your intestines, your pancreas. Right now, it's releasing inflammatory chemicals directly into your bloodstream. It's linked to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even certain cancers. And here's what makes it terrifying. You can be skinny and still have deadly levels of visceral fat. Doctors call this TOFI, thin outside, fat inside. A 2020 study found nearly 30% of normal weight adults had high visceral fat. So when you lose weight, you need to lose it from the right place. And that's where fasting and calorie counting differ in ways most people never realize. But here's where it gets complicated. If you search online, you'll find studies saying fasting destroys visceral fat. You'll also find studies saying calorie counting works just as well. And you'll find studies saying neither makes much difference. Who's right? They all are. And they're all wrong. Because the real answer depends on 3 factors that no single study accounts for. Your insulin levels, your eating window, and something called your fat flux rate that determines which fat cells release energy first. I'm going to break down each factor in the next few minutes. But first, you need to understand what's actually happening inside your body with each method, because without this, everything else is just guessing. Let's start with calorie counting. The principle is simple. Eat fewer calories than you burn. Your body needs energy, so it pulls from fat stores. Weight goes down. But here's what the calorie counting crowd doesn't tell you. Your body doesn't randomly choose which fat to burn. It takes the path of least resistance. And subcutaneous fat, the fat under your skin, releases fatty acids more easily than visceral fat. A 2017 study published in Cell Metabolism tracked where fat was mobilized during calorie restriction. The finding? Subcutaneous fat contributed 60-65% of energy, even in people with high visceral fat. You're shrinking your arms and legs while your belly fat barely moves. Now, does this mean calorie counting is useless for visceral fat? No. Eventually, your body taps into it. But eventually might mean months of frustrating plateaus while you're doing everything right. Unless you understand what fasting does differently. See, fasting doesn't just reduce calories. It changes your hormonal environment completely. Specifically, it crashes your insulin levels in a way that calorie counting simply cannot replicate. And here's the thing about visceral fat that most people don't know. It's extremely insulin sensitive. When insulin is present, visceral fat locks its doors. The fat stays trapped. You can cut calories all day, but if insulin is hanging around, that belly fat isn't going anywhere. Fasting drops insulin to baseline levels, and when insulin disappears, visceral fat finally becomes accessible. But not all fasting works. There's a specific threshold you need to cross, and most popular fasting schedules don't even come close. Let me show you what the research actually found. Okay, wait, pause for a second. I know what you might be thinking. Just tell me which one is better. And I could do that. I could give you a simple answer, you'd click away feeling satisfied, and nothing would actually change. But that's not why you're here. You're here because simple answers haven't worked for you. You've tried the basic advice. You're still fighting belly fat. So let me give you what actually works instead of what sounds good. In 2019, University of Illinois researchers conducted a year-long trial with 116 adults. Group 1, 25% daily calorie restriction. Group 2, alternate day fasting, eating normally one day, very low calories the next. Group 3, control. After 12 months, total weight loss was nearly identical. The calorie restriction group lost 6.8%. The fasting group lost 6.0%. Headlines declared, fasting is no better than dieting. But those headlines missed the real story. When researchers used MRI imaging to measure visceral fat specifically, the fasting group showed 14% greater visceral fat reduction, despite losing slightly less total weight. Read that again. Less weight loss. More visceral fat burned. The fasting group was losing weight from the right places while the calorie counting group was losing weight from everywhere. But here's the twist. Within the fasting group, there was a subgroup that saw almost no visceral fat benefit. Their results looked identical to calorie counting. What made them different? This is the part that nobody talks about. The fasters who failed had one thing in common. They ignored protein. When you fast, your body can burn fat or muscle for energy. And if you're not protecting your muscle with adequate protein, your body will happily cannibalize it. The problem? Muscle is where you burn fat. Less muscle means less fat-burning capacity. So you lose weight, but you're destroying your own metabolism in the process. The successful fasters hit their protein targets during eating windows. The unsuccessful fasters treated their eating windows like a free-for-all. This is why both methods can work, and both methods can fail spectacularly. But I still haven't told you about the timing factor. Here's what most fasting advice completely misses. Popular 16-8 fasting, eating within 8 hours, fasting for 16 sounds effective. And for total calorie reduction, it works fine. But for visceral fat specifically, the magic happens after 12-14 hours of fasting. That's when insulin drops low enough for visceral fat to become fully accessible. That's when norepinephrine signaling increases specifically to visceral fat deposits. That's when your body shifts from burn whatever's easy to burn what's dangerous. A 2020 study in Cell Reports showed that fat oxidation rates doubled after the 14-hour fasting mark. Before that threshold, your body was primarily burning circulating glucose and subcutaneous fat. So if you're eating dinner at 8 p.m. and breakfast at 8 a.m., you're fasting for 12 hours. You're getting most of the benefits, but you're stopping just short of the visceral fat threshold. Push that to 14-16 hours, different metabolic game entirely. But even timing isn't the whole story. There's one more variable that determines whether fasting or calorie counting works better for your body. Quick thing before I share the final piece. If you're still watching, you're clearly serious about this. You're not looking for quick fixes. You want to understand what's actually happening inside your body. So do me a favor, drop a comment right now. Have you tried fasting? Calorie counting? Both? Tell me what happened with your belly fat specifically. I read every comment, and I reply to as many as I can. And if this is the first video of mine you've seen, hit subscribe. I go deep on the science of fat loss, metabolism, and health every single week. No fluff, no gimmicks. Just research you can actually use. A 2021 study in Nature Medicine discovered something fascinating. Not everyone responds to fasting the same way. Researchers identified what they called fasting response phenotypes. Some people's bodies embrace fasting, dropping insulin rapidly, increasing fat oxidation, preserving muscle beautifully. Others, their bodies fight back, spiking cortisol, breaking down muscle, stubbornly holding on to visceral fat. The difference correlated with one simple marker, fasting insulin levels. If your fasting insulin is elevated above 10 MIU/L, fasting tends to produce dramatic results because you have more insulin to suppress. If your fasting insulin is already low, calorie counting with high protein often outperforms fasting for visceral fat loss because your hormonal environment is already optimized. You can check your fasting insulin through a simple blood test. Ask your doctor for it specifically. It's not always included in standard panels. But what if you don't know your levels? What if you just want something that works regardless? Based on the cumulative research, here's the approach that works across body types. 1. Fast for 14-16 hours, 3 to 4 times per week, not daily. Daily fasting leads to metabolic adaptation within weeks. 2. Hit 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight on both fasting and eating days. This preserves muscle and maintains your fat-burning capacity. 3. Time your eating window earlier if possible. A 2019 study showed eating 8 a.m. 4 p.m. produced 25% greater fat oxidation than eating 12 p.m. 8 p.m. Same calories, same fasting duration, completely different results. 4. Add resistance training twice per week. Resistance training independently reduces visceral fat even without weight loss. Combined with fasting, the effects multiply. 5. Cycle the approach. 8 weeks on, 2-3 weeks maintenance. This prevents metabolic adaptation and keeps your body responsive. This isn't fasting is better or calorie counting wins. So, fasting versus calorie counting for visceral fat. Which one wins? Here's the truth. Calorie counting shrinks you. Fasting reshapes you. Calorie counting reduces total body fat gradually, usually starting with the safer subcutaneous fat. Fasting, done correctly, with proper protein, proper timing, and proper cycling, sends a direct signal to your body to burn the fat that actually matters. For visceral fat specifically, fasting has the edge, but only if you cross the 14-hour threshold, protect your protein, and avoid the metabolic adaptation that comes from doing it wrong. The real winner? Understanding your body well enough to use both tools strategically. Natal push. High energy. Now here's what I need from you. Comment below. What's the one thing from this video you're going to try this week? Fasting? Earlier eating window? Hitting your protein targets? Let me know. If this gave you clarity on something you've been confused about, hit that like button. It helps more people find this information. And subscribe if you haven't already. Next week, I'm covering why some people lose fat effortlessly while others struggle despite doing everything right, and it has to do with something called adipocyte hyperplasia that determines your fat cell behavior for life. Don't miss that one. I'll see you there.